could all witness, we went through yesterday through today, and it's been all male voices. I'm sure the females amongst us have been hiding, but then this is a radical call to us. The change is now. I'm sure by the time we are done, you would understand that for us to be sustainable, we need to promote inclusivity. And our sessions yesterday, today, have not really demonstrated that project management, GH, I didn't finish the statement, you did. I like that. So, like she rightly said, I teach, and I love to teach. And unfortunately, I teach in a male-dominated environment, which is construction. And so, pardon me if most of my examples may come from that area, but we'll try as much as possible to make sure that it will fit for all, since it is project management skills that we're going to avail ourselves. So for our presentation today, we would look at the origin of sustainability. How did all the noise about sustainability come about? And then we would also try to understand why we think we need to consider procurement, sustainable procurement as project managers, and what the current situation is, and then what PMs can do. So, if we want to talk about procurement, when we talk of sustainable procurement, we have three main arms that we need, or when we talk of sustainability, we have three main arms that we need to be concerned with. We would first of all look at the environment, we would look at the society, and then we'll look at the economy. We sometimes would refer to it as the 3 Ps, the planet, the people, and then the profit. But in each of these, we can still relate with them, under it being the environment, society, and the economy. We'll take our time and go through a few things that we may have to do to contribute towards. So how did this all begin? In the year 2015, we had about 195 countries in the UN agreeing to come together to come up with a declaration that would want to change the world to make it a better place by a certain year. And I'm sure at that time, 2015, when they were setting up the goal of making the world better by 2030, they were thinking that 2030 is far off. But as we sit here today, we have 7 more years to get there. And I'm wondering if the world would be better in 7 years. That is a question we all have to answer in our individual seats. But then, their aim at that time was to ensure that these 15 goals that we have here would be a part of us for every living individual as we strive to survive on this planet called Earth. And these are what we refer to as the Sustainable Development Goals, or we refer to them as the SDGs for short. So why sustainable procurement? This is an area that I am personally interested in because I see procurement as one environment where we try to engage any other individual who can help us achieve our aim. And that is the simple definition that I will give to procurement. And so, you'd realize that for us to be able to secure our future such that we will not impact negatively on the environment, on the society, and on our economy, and then we would have to make sure that we do everything that will inculcate the support of the other individual in a sustainable way. And so, to ensure that our actions today do not limit the quality of life of those who would live after us, we will need to think sustainability when we want to indulge in procurement. Again, you would also realize that it is not only something that is supposed to be for the procurement entity or the primary sector, the secondary sector. When we sit and then we reflect, we would realize that sustainability is every sector's business. Now, let's also come into the world of regulations, where we have the laws that we have to abide by. When we come to our nation, again, we have a law that seeks to ensure that if we want to procure, we need to procure sustainably. I'm sure those of us who are engaged in procurement may have come across this, but I can bet to say that the majority of us who are not engaged in procurement may not even be aware that there is a law in the nation that ensures that we have to procure sustainably. And so I'm going to quote. It says that the object of the authority is to harmonize the process of public procurement in the public service to ensure a judicious, economic, and efficient use of state resources in public procurement, and to ensure that public procurement is carried out in a fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory, environmentally and socially sustainable manner. Quoted from the PPA Act 663 as amended. And we all know there are sanctions to the law, but is this really happening in our environment? I'm sure if I'm going to request for answers to these questions, most of us would not want to speak. When the second presenter for the day spoke about procurement fraud, it was quite evident, and we all saw what the actual true picture is in our various environments. So how do we achieve sustainability when we talk of the environment? Typical example, you want to build. What will you do? You have your piece of land. The next thing is you're going to get a bulldozer or maybe an excavator which has a crawler. And then the next thing we see it, the whole land is cleared. Before we put our building on a small corner, and then we begin to plant grass, trees. Is that sustainability? Right. Galamsey, the water bodies. What are we doing to the water bodies? Erosion. We would want to make sure that we can paint the ceiling of this room. We will need to mount the scarf. Instead of us going in for metal scarves, we'd go to the wood market, get some 2x4, come nail them together and make sure we get the height. Where did we get that from? The forest. And so, as project managers, we would need to be thinking through all these as part of our life cycle to ensure that we can get sustainable things done within our environment. So these are examples of the things that we can do to ensure that we get the environment sustained. Then we could also talk about the social side, where we can contribute to improve health and safety, provision of welfare facilities. You'd go to, again, I'm biased towards construction. Typical construction site, and we are not even worried about where our staff would have lunch. They will need to turn their hard hats upside down so that it can contain the banku and the soup that they want to eat. And then, so you give them the protective garment, and they are keeping it safely, making sure that it doesn't become dirty, because that is their bowl for lunch. Right. Place of convenience is not our headache. Health and safety for our workers, we don't care about it. But all these things are things that we need to put in place to ensure that we can achieve sustainability. Then, for the economy, how do we support the salary regimes that we can give off to those who work for us? How do we include local content? We promote the use of the local contractors. We buy made in Ghana goods. We build the capacity of the skills of the people that we have in-house. All these are ways with which we can promote economic stability, sustainability rather, in our environment. So, what is sustainability? There's a quote that I want to share from Paul Pullman, and he says, if we achieve our sustainability targets and no one follows, then we have failed. So it means that it is not something that we need to do now and leave without it being continued, but we need to consider it being something that would be propagated. So what is the current situation? Currently, we realize that sustainability is being carried out in a very uncoordinated manner. If I understand it and I think it can work for me, then I can put it to practice. If the client who is requesting for you to carry out an activity for him or her wants to ensure sustainability, then it can be carried out. If the funding for the project is coming in with some sustainability ties, then we will ensure sustainability. So what is the way forward for us as project managers? How can we join the train so that we will be able to carry out sustainable procurement? We can do it from our own small environment, right from the homes into the office environment, and then it will transcend into the industry. Carry out things like buying energy efficient equipment and appliances. So you walk into the shop and then you see a refrigerator. I'm not going to mention brands, but 1 star is going for 1,100. And then you see another one, 4 star, same size, same capacity. And that one is going for 4,000. You check the price again. That one probably will be 3,999. This one is 1,999. Okay. No, so the 1,000 will be 999. Right. I'm sure the majority of us would say 999. Right. Without considering the ripple effect. 999 will be taken home, and every month we'll be spending an extra 50 cedis on our electricity. So cumulative, we will be keeping that refrigerator for about 5 years. How much have we spent? 3,999 will be taken home and will be consuming 10 cedis worth of electricity. Because the star rating indicates the energy consumption. And so, what do? Save today, spend tomorrow. That is not sustainability. Reduce the unnecessary transport mileage. Team building exercise for our company. And we're going out there, yes. So that is when the vehicle we've parked in the garage would have to come out so that colleagues would get to know that, yes, I also have 3.5 liter engine. We fuel it. We sit in alone. We drive to Senchi. 5.7 liter engine. We sit in alone. We drive to Senchi. That vehicle could have accommodated 5 of us. We are all coming in from our various institutions. However, there's a 3.5, there's a 5.7, there's a 2.0, there's a 1.6. We will all come. But if we think sustainability, right, then we may have to agree that we could pool cars and we will still be at our venue, we'll still get the work done, and we'll still be satisfied. We would have saved the environment. We can talk of reuse, recycling, right? For this is where the procurement comes on board. Before you purchase, somebody would say, I finished drinking the bottle of water and I cannot reuse the bottle, or I cannot recycle the bottle. But before you went in to purchase, you should have thought of what I can reuse or recycle before you purchased. And that is where the bit of procurement comes in for sustainability. And so it is not an instant activity, but we need to plan into sustainability. We also have to consider patronizing the local commodities. Unfortunately, most of the workmanship and then the final presentation of these local commodities may not be appealing to us. But what have we done about it? What kind of feedback have we given off to the producers so that it can fit for our use? In that sense, then, we can be contributing to sustainability. We also need to be buying ethically sourced goods. And that is where the aspect of fraud will come in. We have a vehicle that has been channeled in from Togo. And then we decide to purchase. It is not sustainable, or it is not sustainability. And so, once we decide to go on as PMs, what are we to take home? We need to understand that we have to consider sustainability even before we think of procurement. The point where we would make sure that we allocate a satisfactory budget for whatever it is that we have decided to buy after we've gone through our make or buy decisions. And then we also try to incorporate the social responsibilities, because those are the ones that can help us to give back to society, to improve the social wing of sustainability. And then when we come to the point where we have to plan, what do? We make our decisions with life cycle analysis in mind, thinking of the immediate expenses, the maintenance cost, the operating cost, right? Even the disposal cost should come in mind so that we are sure that whatever it is that we are doing, we have the future in mind. We try as much as possible to avoid noise. We promote health and safety practices. We promote local content and small businesses. And then we also adopt some cost engineering techniques whereby we may be looking at other alternatives that can work best for us. These are the things we need to be doing at the planning stage. And then we can now decide how to go in there. And so once we set up our minds with these in the plan, then we get to the point where we're going out there to look for who to get the work done for us, who to supply, who to seek the services from. We will need to work according to our plan. And then, at that point too, we need to practice inclusivity. And so we could decide that because this particular company has a person living with disability employed in their firm, they are the people we are purchasing from. Because they have a right proportion of ladies against men, then we are engaging them, right? We could also have to promote equity and equality. It is very important for us to be able to achieve social and economic stability. And then we need to incorporate compliance. We have to stick to some of the rules and regulations that will help us to meet the sustainable facts that we have put across. And then ensure sustainable responsiveness. And so for the kind of documents that we are sending out for solicitation, we may need to intentionally include certain things that will disqualify those who are not sustainable biased. When we begin to do this as project managers, everybody will come on board. They would realize that that is the trend, and so we all need to think sustainability. When it comes to the point where we are controlling, then we'll have to monitor to ensure that we are working according to the plan. When we got to the point where we were conducting, we said we are supposed to adhere to the plan, but it is not to mean that we will have to be resistant to change. So as we are carrying out the control activities, we need to make sure that we have our arms wide open to accommodate all the changes that can help improve what we had in our plan, but with a caution of making sure that we are not drifting away from sustainability. And then finally, we have to ensure that we are meeting our sustainability goals by the time we complete our project. So what are the fundamental questions that we can be asking ourselves to ensure that we are getting sustainable? So we could ask a question like, does this procurement process we're going through meet the present needs of our organization, its customers, and its wide stakeholders without compromising the ability to continue to do so in the future? If we're able to answer yes to this question, then we are on the path of procurement. I actually focused on procurement just as one arm in project management. But if we look at it critically, you'd realize that we could apply it to every aspect of the project management knowledge areas if indeed as project managers, we want to champion sustainability, even though we may not find ourselves in the procurement environment. So I highlighted a few areas. When we talk of the stakeholder management, we can be thinking of sustainability even at the point where we are identifying our stakeholders. So for people to carry out work for us, for the vendors that would want to be using, for the community members, we may be able to think sustainability. When it comes to our scope management, at the point where we are collecting requirements, we are defining our scope, again, the concept of sustainability could be brought in there. When it comes to cost management, making sure that we get the best budget for our project at the point where we are estimating sustainability would be there. When it comes to resource management, again, when we want to acquire the resource, we could also bring in the sense of sustainability. And then, when it comes to the point where we are defining our requirements as a bit to achieve quality, we could also achieve sustainability through that. And so we realize that as project managers, irrespective of wherever we find ourselves, we will and we should be able to promote sustainability. And so we need to make sure that we act local and think global. The time for us to make sure that we engage and promote sustainability is now. Thank you.
At this point, we would like to welcome any questions that delegates may have.
My name is Frederick Atin from ECG. Just as I'm trying to look at the definition of sustainability, as to be able to fulfill the current and our present needs without compromising for the future generation. If you are traveling on the way of Takrady from Commander to, yes, you realize that the people used to grow rice at the stretch. And when they started mining, have people like you in the society who speaks to higher authorities. Please, what are we doing about it? My concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I would say that we have begun the advocacy. So it is not going to be easy because it is a culture and we may need to infiltrate into the culture. But then we have started in our own small way sensitizing professional institutions to come up with clear positions which could be noise out there so that we can, in our own small way, contribute to what is good for the nation. The other side is for us to promote education. The truth is, most of the people who are engaging in those things are thinking of what will go into their pockets today. The majority are not considering what will be left for the future generation. I was asking a group of participants the last time that with the rate at which we are mining, what would be left for the generations in the next 20 years to mine. And I was surprised for somebody to tell me that gold is spiritual, so it will grow. Right. But then we need to be conscious of the non-renewable resources that we are depleting at this stage. Because for the trees, yes, we are cutting them, we are replanting. But the typical example you gave, we are excavating the clay. It is not going to grow. So we may need to consider the alternative materials that we would have to use so that we can preserve the environment for the future. So that is it. Yeah, thank you.
You have a project, you have a budget approved. Usually the budget is even approved from the top. Those of us who are in management, we do budgeting session, rough order of estimation, put the budget together. Okay, we will do A, B, C, D, we upgrade this, we do this, we do this, we call it all, go to group level, the budget is approved. Before you go into procurement, right? So you get to procurement, you already have a budget. Then let me even say that, let's use the analogy of just getting a fridge. So you have a budget of 2,000. You are thinking about sustainability, 5-star or 6-star. You know that the budget approved is a 0-star. So practically, how would we address that issue so far as project management is concerned? So for me, it's of a major concern because you have very small budget. You are expected to maximize and make the best out of it. Yet we also talk about sustainability. The other bit is that for division of labor, procurement is not done within the project management office. So you have supply chain management or enterprise service who does procurement. They are also thinking about savings. So usually they also do their report and say, I bought this is the market price, I've done this saving on it. Considering all that, how do we address it?
Thank you, Cyril, for your question. But then, I would also want to say, project management is not just looking at the face value. And that is why we would advocate that you take your time and then you do a detailed plan, life cycle costing. Let management be aware that your budget now is 2,000, but we will need an extra 10,000 to maintain the 2,000 we are spending now after you've done your analysis. Or the alternative is to hold on, look for an extra 3,000 to add on to this 5,000, and we don't spend anything more after that. You lay your cards on the table as a project manager, and you will have the thumbs up from your managers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Eric, and I like the presentation, and I'm also very interested in issues of sustainability. And in most cases, when we are dealing with looking at the sustainability practices of some of the organizations, it's sometimes better to stratify these organizations and see the level to which they can implement issue of sustainability. So, for example, I don't expect that the sustainability practices of EcoBank would be the same thing as that of my village bank. Although they both will like the TV. And in the same vein, the income category of the population matters a lot. The one-star fridge could be the best sustainability plan of a lower income level person as compared to even a higher income level person going to buy a 4-star fridge. You don't expect that you pay people less and expect they all buy 5-star fridges in their houses. You don't also allow the country to import large volumes of 1-star fridge and expect that we will not buy. As being rational as we are, I will buy the 1-star fridge because it's like, give me my daily bread today. So I will go in for that and leave the 5-star, although we all know. Sitting here, most of us are aware that solar connection in your house is one of the best. I'm sure less than 0.1% of us are using solar in our houses.
It is relative. It is relative. If your energy consumption is not low, then the solar you are going to purchase will not be cheap. So it is a cycle. And sorry, finish your question.
Okay, so I'll get back to that. You finish.
Finish your question.
Who finishes first? Because I have a contrary view to that.
Finish your question, and then I'll come to it. Yes.
So which is which? Okay, finish.
Right. And so I would say that it is a cycle, right? You need to make sure that you get it right from the point of planning, design.
Yes.
Right. And so you design right, you make sure that energy consumption is low, then you spend less on the solar so that you get the rippling effect.
So it comes back to the same point that it's all about the planning. And if you actually plan well for electricity and also plan well for the solar will go better.
Yes. And so
that part,
to the first part of your question, okay, we are advocating for sustainability, not just economic sustainability, but then it sits on 3 arms.
Perfect.
And so if our people are paid well, right, okay, they will be able to afford something other than the 1-star. And so we are looking at it as a holistic approach, or from the holistic approach, and not just looking at making sure that we are conserving the environment at the expense of the social arm or the economic arm. It needs to be an integrated activity.
Perfect. So it's more about also a policy issue.
Certainly.
How is the policy designed to allow institutions and the population that is very heterogeneous to be able to do sustainability within the context of the 3 Ps? So that's what I think that we should be reflecting on now.
Unfortunately, in our part of the world, we don't have those policies in there. But that is why we are doing this advocacy now. We need to start from somewhere. So if Project Management Institute has a mouth and the communique is taken from here, then we will start from our own small corner. Like I mentioned earlier on, some of the professional institutions have been engaged. And once the institution has a council, then we know that it can go forth into the environment where the laws are being made. And so it's bits by bit, but we can start small from our individual corners, and then collectively, we can make the difference.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is very weird. So on behalf of all the women within the Ghana PMI Ghana chapter, I want to say thank you to Dawn. You can So this topic, sustainability, always brings passion. I didn't mean to say allow others, but I know there are questions in the room, and I want us to hear from others. So there are a lot of program managers in this room, or project managers in this room, and PMPs. In some parts of the world, right here on this continent, project managers have to submit, as part of the project management plan, they have to include what? Finish it for me. Yes, and so you do the life cycle costing that she's talking about. Solar, don't jump very quickly. Yesterday I told someone in the hallway, it surprised you to note even hydro. I wouldn't capture hydro as sustainable. So I just want us to stay open-minded. This is really an important subject. That's what I want to say, but the most important thing is to recognize her on behalf of all the women within the Ghana chapter.
We've had in Ghana here many projects that have been in the pipeline in terms of procurement and never materialized. My good friend from EcoBank e-process talked about how the budget is done. You have the budget before you go into procurement. Is it because we planned and the planning never ends, and that is how come our procurement system never ends and the project never materializes? There are several projects I can mention that even though we had the soft cutting done, kickoff is done, yet the project never materialized. What is wrong?
Emmanuel, right? Emmanuel, my candid answer is that in our part of the world, we begin execution before we plan. That is for us. We execute, and when we get to the point where we have a snag, then we come to plan. What we do before we start all those activities is not planning. We conceive the idea, the next minute we are on the go. And so we don't plan. We execute before we plan in our part of the world. Once you're a project manager and you sit to plan into your project, there is no way that it will be in the pipeline. Thank you.
My name is Sven Amor. My question is sustainability. Can it sometimes cause us to be uncomfortable in our lives? Okay, I'll give an instance, and it's here. I believe all of us, as we entered, were given bags and there were bottles inside. Assuming we're all told that for us environmentally to be friendly, they're not going to give us bottled water. So there will be lined up dispensers so you can get water. How comfortable will we be to draw the water? Because you can see the amount of waste we are generating, plastic waste we are generating as PMI members. This is food for thought. Thank you.
I would say that I don't think we may be uncomfortable if we have the lined up dispensers as you mentioned, because we may probably have enough, and then after being in a queue, after 3 or 4 people, you may be served. But if there's a situation where the over 100 number here would have to fetch from one dispenser, then it is uncomfortable. But again, that will not be sustainability. The fact that you have a cup to fetch is not sustainability. So you're not looking at it from just one angle, right? So you're looking at the multiplicity, right? You are saving time, and so you have various vantage points. We can all fetch. You have achieved the sustainability. And so you plan into it. It is not just because I don't want to drink from a plastic bottle because it is going to cause what? Waste. So I'm going to fetch from the stream to drink. That is not sustainability. Right? You don't have to put a stress on any of the arms. Immediately you make the individual uncomfortable, you are stressing the social arm. And so you need to make sure that there is a balance. And so the fetching of water from the cup could be sustainable or could not be sustainable. Thank you.
All right, there's a question in the back. But while you're
when the male speakers came round, they were allowing only 2 questions. So, is it to mean that I'm answering all the questions for the female speakers who didn't come.
Doc, sorry about that.
The sorry is coming from a male, so I won't accept it. Let's take your question, please.
All right. My name is Enifa. I work for Cargill, Ghana. I think your topic is a very interesting one and a very exciting one. I want to touch on Sarah's point about budget constraints. I must say that from where I sit and from what I've been doing over the years, I've come to the conclusion that this sustainability topic is being addressed to the right people. For me, budgeting should not be the problem. Why? Because you mentioned life cycle costing, which is what most multinationals also do. And multinationals normally want you to, even before you bring your budget, they want you to tell them about your alternative analysis. They want you to tell them about your basis of design. Now, if all this could not factor sustainability, and then you present a budget that one procurement guy could not even see an alternative analysis, there's no procurement plan, and then you ask the guy to go to the market and buy something that is not really defined and defined in terms of make or buy, or yeah, if we don't buy this, well, this is the repercussions. The project manager has that power and has that authority to influence the process. So for me, if you are doing the planning and you didn't factor all this, and then you get your budget, you couldn't defend it, and then they cut your budget, you come back, you couldn't deliver the project properly, and then you blame the budget process, I think we should be blaming ourselves as project managers. The second point in relation to that also is that most of you are not, like you said, in this country, execution starts before budgeting. Why?
Before planning.
Sorry, before planning, more or less. Why? Because I would say largely, we have the wrong people managing projects in this country. How many of us seated here are in position of authority to really influence the process? You go to other parts of the world, for instance, I'll just mention Netherlands. You go to Netherlands, once you are PM certified, you are considered an influencer and you are part of the process. Once you get certified, whichever level you are, you find your way to a certain level, and then you can really influence the project. In this country, I'm sure we have a lot of people who are not even certified. They don't know, they don't have any knowledge. They are using, quote unquote, knowledge.
And they call themselves project managers on their job.
And these are the projects you see in the pipelines. So I'm not sure I want to blame those projects on the people seated here that we call project managers. So maybe after here, we should find a fine balance to really influence the process gradually, and then one day, I'm sure we'll get there. But for the money about fridge and sorry, I don't agree completely. Because if you want to think sustainability, then wait when your budget reaches sustainable fridge, go and buy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your contribution. But I finally want to add on that I would want to urge Project Management Institute. We can make a difference. I always ask a very simple question in class. We have a project management master's class, and the first day I get to class, I request all those who are project managers, please be upstanding. And you would see a huge number of them rising. They are in now to take project management knowledge, but you can see about 2/3 of the class on their feet. And then I ask them, which certification do you have? Nothing. Why are you calling yourself project managers? Because that is my rule. Then my next question, or my next statement to them is, when you get to work on Monday, go to HR, ask them to change your rule, but not to decrease your salary. Simply because you may be in a position which you are not supposed to be. And so acquire the skills now and make sure that you make the difference where you find yourself. PMI, GH, we can start from this level and try to advocate and make sure that our profession, project management, is not watered down. Just the same way as the fact that we can settle a litigation, we can't call ourselves lawyers, or we could prescribe paracetamol to cure headache. We can't call ourselves medical officers. In the same way, we should champion that those who can direct projects who are not certified should not be called project managers. And this is a responsibility for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will like to thank you and thank you for representing us. Thank you. Thank you.